So welcome everybody. My name is Holly Bellebuono. I'm Executive Director at YMCA-MV, Adult and Continuing Education on Martha's Vineyard. This is our first think tank, is what we're calling it. It's a panel for our community, especially small businesses, to come together and talk about various ideas. The way this one is set up is we have 5 panelists. And if you're joining on the call, you can see that you can see the 5 panelists, but no one else. And the reason for that is just to help keep it streamlined and organized. We do want your input and your engagement, however, and so if you move your mouse or your cursor, you should be able to see at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A button, which means you can ask a question and get an answer. And there's also a chat feature. So you can ask a question there if you prefer, or you can talk to someone individually. So I am going to introduce our wonderful panelists who took time out of this gorgeous day to be with us. So in alphabetical order, we've got Heidi Feldman. Heidi is co-owner of Down Island Farm and MV Sea Salt. I'm sure you've seen her gorgeous products around at the farmer's market and various retail outlets. She and her husband harvest their own salt, and it's packaged beautifully, and it's an incredible resource from the island. So thank you for being here, Heidi.
Nice to be with you.
We have Nancy Gardella, who's the Executive Director of the MV Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for being here, Nancy.
Thanks for inviting me, Holly.
We have Samantha Hartley, who is founder and president of Enlightened Marketing. And Samantha is also going to be an instructor for ACE this summer, hosting a course on social media. Thank you for being here, Samantha.
Thank you for having me.
Keenan. She's the co-founder of Not Your Sugar Mamas and owner of Frankie's Flatbread. Really delicious food and a familiar face to a lot of us here on the island. Thank you for being here with us, Kai.
Thanks for having me.
And Jill Robie, Executive Director of the YMCA Martha's Vineyard. Thank you. So this is quite a diverse group. We have panelists representing single sole proprietorships all the way up to fairly large establishments. And we're all being impacted by the coronavirus and the shutdown. And this is something none of us personally have faced before, I would think, because here in this country, nothing like this has happened for decades and decades. So this is the first time we've been exposed to it and dealing with it on both a personal and a professional level. So we wanted to engage you all today as leading voices in our community to ask you, how are you creatively weathering this process? What are some ideas that you've had that might seem to work for you or have worked for you? What hasn't worked for you? What are you struggling with? What sort of challenges is your business facing generally? And then we also wanted to talk at some point over the next 45 minutes or so about staffing. How are you looking forward at this summer, the summer season on Martha's Vineyard? Will you be able to get the staff that you need? Will you be able to have them trained? Or are you adjusting your needs on hiring right now? And then at some point also, we want to talk about definitely communication with your clients and your customers, and how other small businesses might need to think about, the word pivot has come into play quite a bit lately, how to pivot your message or your approach, how to transition, how to shift, but still reaching out to your customer base and your client base and being the business that they need you to be and that you want to be. And then new priorities, looking ahead at the summer and at the fall. Do you have contingency plans? Do you have scenarios in your head that if this happens, then that? So just to kind of pick your brains along these different threads of thought so that the other small business leaders on our call today get some ideas, get some balls rolling, and think about what it means to them as well. So the format for today, I don't really have a set in stone structure. I would like to go back and forth with each of you and ask questions and have you ask each other questions and have you pipe up and chip in whenever you want. It's free flowing, very casual. So if everybody agrees, I think I would like to get the ball rolling with a question to one of our smaller businesses, and then maybe work up to our larger businesses. So perhaps Heidi, would you mind fielding the first question just to get us rolling for today?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad you could make it. We're up to 33 participants. That's pretty great. So the way we're weathering this pandemic is assessing our numbers, looking at our balance sheet, which I'm thankful to say is holding steady. We are 90% off sales, and I am projecting that through the end of the second quarter and probably well into the third quarter based on restrictions that I see coming. Regardless, we are taking steps to continue producing. We're one of those shelf-stable products, so we can continue producing and then sell from the backlog when we do see a return to whatever our new normal is. But we're not losing faith. So what we're doing is on a daily basis, I make a list of the things that are actually the night before. I make a list of the things that I want to do, and I carry those forward. And I try to tackle 2 or 3 items a day and no more, because I also view this as given time, as time that I probably won't ever see again in my work life. And so I'm trying to balance out this time by getting out and doing those things that I love. We happen to have a farm in addition to our sea salt business, and so we are producing lots of good things to eat, and our grounds need a lot of maintenance, and that has really gone by the wayside in the last couple of years. So we're putting our hands, my husband and I, back around our property and trying to get it back into snuff and really actually enjoying this time besides aside from the bad news. And we are communicating with our constituents. So customers, constituents, whether it's B2B, B2C, over the web, direct emails, we're communicating with them, sending out messages. And we happen to use a variety of 1099 consultants. So we have not had to lay anybody off because our consultants are out there doing their thing. But Nancy, this is a question for you as we go through this. We don't employ FTEs or even PTEs. We don't have W-2 contractors. And we ourselves, I'm an LLC, but I've got lots of 1099s working for me, and they are their own entities. And I'm wondering if you could just briefly kind of hone in on those subsidies or grants or loans that are actually available to the really small business person.
Okay, so I can tell you this. The state of Massachusetts opened up last week a pandemic unemployment assistance plan for people who are self-employed and for people who historically have been ineligible for unemployment benefits. Now, when they apply for that, there's a 2 or 3 week lag time before the first payment comes through. But applying for that also makes people eligible for the federal add-on to unemployment of another $600 a week. So while those things are temporary, they won't last forever. They do last for a number of weeks. And between the new Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, PUA, on the mass.gov website, then, you know, it can definitely help people make their way through. And it was great that Massachusetts adopted a new unemployment assistance program for people who historically have been unable to collect. Now, as far as small business loans go, the Small Business Administration, which is a federal program, is administering a couple of loan programs. One is called the EIDL. I'm hoping I'm getting that acronym right because it's being dyslexic, I'm forever turning around letters, but that program is basically an emergency injury loan program because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And small businesses can apply for that. It's a small loan to help cover payroll costs that can be non-traditional. So they don't necessarily have to be payroll on your books, is what I understand it to be. But I encourage people to visit the SBA .org, I think it's .org website to get that information. And those are the two sources that I am aware of, you know, in the right now for those contracted employees.
Since we're talking about employment right now, what about staffing concerns? Do any of you, Jill, you have one of the larger businesses here. Are you concerned about staffing challenges for the summer? Are you concerned that you won't have enough, or that you'll have too much and you'll have to lay people off? Or are you being a little bit more creative and bringing people in more part-time? How are you managing?
So we closed on the 13th of March. We kept all of our employees on for 3 weeks while we were trying to figure out, you know, what was going to be really in the best interest of the employees. Clearly the pool wasn't open, so the lifeguards were getting paid, but they weren't guarding the pool. You know, we weren't going to be able to go on and on for that, doing that for months and months. Fortunately, the unemployment legislation came through. We furloughed probably about 75% of our hourly employees. And to be honest with you, there's some people that are making quite a bit more money on unemployment than they were working for the Y. So our biggest challenge is if we open before July 31st, because these wages are, especially the federal that you were talking about, Nancy, goes through the 31st of July. It's going to be getting them back. But I think for the most part, most people are anxious to get back to work. At this point, we're not sure exactly at what point the Y will be reopening. You know, we have several different businesses. You know, we have fitness and wellness, we have childcare, we have food service, we have all, you know, pool, we have the ice arena, all these things. And my guess is it's not going to be all at once. And we still are trying to figure out what we're going to do with things like day camp and the ice arena. Right now we've taken the ice out for the summer with the anticipation of it going back in the fall. So my hope is that we can bring people off of furlough over a period of time to meet the needs of the gradual opening of the Y, and that the people wanting to come back to work and the people that are there, hopefully magically, will be the same. But at this point right now, we only have about 20 people on the payroll. And those are people who primarily, Samantha, you said you're doing Zoom classes. We've got people that are providing virtual content. We've created a Y Without Walls, which oddly enough was what the Y was called before it was built. For 2 years, the Y was on Martha's Vineyard, operating out of lots of different places, and it was called the Y Without Walls. And as we approach our 10th anniversary on June 17th, we're going back to our roots. So that's a long answer to your question, but staffing is something we're worried about. But unlike some others, they're at home waiting to come back. We're not trying to get people from other countries and things like that. So.
How about you, Nancy, with staffing?
So we've been hearing from a lot of businesses very concerned because so many island businesses, honestly, because there are so many more seasonal jobs on Martha's Vineyard than we have available workforce. So we know that everyone who wants to work on Martha's Vineyard has that opportunity through all the seasonal jobs there are May through October and even beyond. We have heard from Congressman Keating's office that there is, that of course, I guess we all know the president has said no H-2B visa applications will be processed right now, but has left the door open for those J1 student visas. Now, how those will be processed and how quickly those will be processed remains to be seen. You know, there's so many unknowns right now for businesses. They're faced with, you know, who will be here? How much help do I need? How can I possibly plan when I don't know this? And when would that help become available? So there's definitely a lot of very scary unknowns for people with that. But right now, the federal government has left the door open for J1 student visas.
I know that YMCA-MV has been working with the high school to create a job fair this spring, and we'll have a career fair later in the fall for high school students who want to go out in the community and work for the summer. The job fair is for summer work, and it got canceled, obviously, so it's not happening, but we're still working with the high school to figure out how can we do this outreach to the students and help be that bridge between students and local employers who need some employees this summer, you know, and get the jobs to the younger kids, these young adults who need the work and who are here. Yeah, so it's a question, especially for restaurants, I would imagine. We'll have some restaurant representatives on our next think tank webinar that we do. But I know that that's a huge question for restaurants. Will they be open? Will they be doing takeout only? If they are open, will it be outdoor seating only? Will they have a certain limit on number of people, as well as retail establishments, certain number of people allowed in your store at a certain time? So all of these questions.
Our business has really relied on our income from the West Tisbury Farmers Market to get us into the marketplace. You know, all kinds of branding, all kinds of sales. And the recommendation from the Mass Department of Agricultural, MDAR, is that we actually have two people in our booth now, one to deal with the product and the other to deal with payments. So we are very much trying to get the farmers market up and running. It may be in a different location, and it may take a different means of getting the product to the buyers. But if we do face-to-face purchases, we're going to each need at least two people in the booth, one to handle the product and one to handle the money. And that's you know, not something that has been traditional for us. So we may be needing to hire for the West Tisbury Farmers Market, either the individual booths or maybe the farmers market itself will find, you know, some room to bring people in.
That's good to know. Yeah, the farmers have it particularly hard, I think, because you have to prepare and plan so early in the season, and what your product is perishable. So working with farmers and agricultural groups is going to be key for municipalities to distribute food that's grown. If it's not going to a restaurant, it needs to go to a homeless shelter or to the seniors housing. You know, I don't know if any of those plans have been put into place in our community. IGI, I would imagine, is probably.
The initiative has been very active and proactive in getting food out to those who need food, hand in hand with all of the pantries. And I believe that they are working on, you know, on many different levels in our community right now to ensure that whatever food we have does not go to waste.
Mm-hmm. Great. I wanted to ask Samantha. You're a consultant and you work with women business owners. What do you think people should be doing right now that they might not want to do necessarily, or that might be painful, but that would really be a boost to them, to their business, if they could just get over this hump and do something in particular?
I mean, the big hard thing, I think, is realizing that it's never going to be the same as it was. And I think that's really the hurdle that all of us are facing, is like, even hearing about the adaptations at the West Tisbury Farmers Market, I feel like, but that's not the way it was. And even though there are improvements, it's like, I love having a panel like this come into my house on a Wednesday. I hope we keep this. But it replaces an event that we might have done at, you know, somewhere else. So I do think there's a lot of mourning going on about the year I thought I was going to have and the way I thought things were going to be. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important as business owners to kind of face that and deal with it. And part of the reason it's important for us to do that is because there are people who look to us to lead them. And that's our teams and our staff, but also our client base and even customers. I mean, we want to know what are you doing and how are you adapting? And there's a lot of focus and attention on everybody right now and what they're doing. So I think that's really the most important thing, is just to be like, if we spend a lot of time looking backwards and trying to force fit our future into some past model, we're going to waste a lot of time. So it's going to be different. Now, what do we do? So I was just talking with some clients in Canada, and they have a training company, and a lot of their people are committed, their clients are committed to those trainings being in person. And obviously everybody is realizing we need to move way more things online than were ever online before. And if things are going to be in person, we need to do those differently. So the big question I would ask is, given that we're not going to be able to do it exactly as it was, how can we do things? And we had to brainstorm probably 5 things, because they've tried this and they've tried this and people are not really responding to this. So what is answer 4 and 5? Mm-hmm. And so you can hear that there's really, we're going to have to push the limits of creativity. And this is where I think our community comes together. It's like, well, but my business is dependent on this. What are my options? And some of those businesses cannot continue at all in the current form. Some businesses are going to be able to pivot and come up with a creative way to do things. And we see examples of that all over the island already. And people being creative about, well, we can deliver groceries, or we can adapt to takeout, or, well, we're going to have an online version of that right now. And I think that's the best way to look forward, is to get creative. But again, creativity isn't like, hey, I came up with one other way. Creativity is like, I came up with 10 other things we can do. And 2 of those ideas are really crazy and stupid. But then we came up with 5 more, because the real answers are going to be at the outer limit of our imagination right now.
That's a great point. If we ever go back to the way it was, and we probably won't, exactly like what you said, what will the future look like? How do we envision it? How do we get past the grieving process from that change? Because change is always difficult. And talking about the social media bit, a lot of people are now going online. They're taking their business online. They're taking their ideas online. They're even branching out into other categories that their business didn't previously do, because if they were a hands-on business like massage or yoga teacher or doing something with people, now that instead of doing it with people, they're teaching how to do it or demonstrating how to do it. If someone isn't familiar with working online, especially social media, which is your expertise, what would you suggest to them?
I use it as a user first. To me, whenever a new social medium came out and I was like, I don't understand this is idiotic, what would I do? I would say, I'm going to use it as if I were really using it myself. So what am I interested in? I'm interested in dogs. I'm interested in cooking. I'm interested in, whatever. And then I would follow my people and see how I used it. And then over time, I would begin to understand, first of all, this is how you use the platform. And then, oh, that was an ad. And it wasn't a bad one. Like, that really appealed to me. So the first few things that I purchased from ads on Instagram, and then later on people would say, nobody wants to see ads on Instagram. And I was like, I actually bought these pants because of Instagram, or I actually, you know what I mean? So I learned the platform first. And I do this with my clients too. If they're like, LinkedIn is stupid, I'm like, sign on to LinkedIn and then do what you want to do. Like, follow people you like, post what you want, and then learn what the rules and the etiquette of that platform is. So if we can learn to like it, I'm not gonna say love, like that platform ourselves, then we can get a little more fluent in how to use it. It's important not to be everywhere, but to be where your people are. Mm-hmm. So figuring out, like for me, LinkedIn is my least favorite social medium by far. It's the worst platform. They're dreadful in almost every way. However, it's where my people are. So I can use that etiquette. I can be there in ways that are appealing to the people there, and it can work for me. So a lot of my clients come from LinkedIn, and if you had told me that before, I wouldn't have believed it because I think it's so ineffective. But I've learned the ways to work it so that I get clients from there. Also, Facebook, there are ways to work with Facebook, and its advertising platform is so rich that it's really easy to just be like, how about, even though most of my people are on LinkedIn, I'll just find some of my people on Facebook, because the ad platform is so robust. So that's kind of my advice, is start as a user first, figure out what you like. And that way, when if you end up working with an advisor, they can explain it to you and you'll understand the terms they're using.
Mm-hmm.
I go ahead,
Nancy.
Samantha, I love everything that you've said. That's tremendous advice. If I could just piggyback on it and add a couple of more points, some of the best advice that I've heard that I'm sharing with folks is, this is the time, as Heidi said, this is time, right? Even though some of us it feels like the days are just slipping by with work, this is time. And this is an opportunity for businesses to almost think of themselves as a startup again. What is possible? We have to find a way to deal with our grief that this summer is going to be, or moving forward is going to be really different from what we've known in the past. And we have to stop, as much as we can, counting the losses, the fair. We have to stop counting the losses. As business people, we have to start from ground zero. And as you said, reimagine. I would say to people, evaluate who your most resilient customer is. The people who will come back, who love Martha's Vineyard, who love your business. Those people will be back. Who are they, and how can you speak to them now? We can't really do much business now, but we shouldn't be invisible.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think one of the first meetings that I had with our program team was, I mean, these were all people who, they teach swimming lessons, they work with children. I mean, they being online and working virtually is not part of anything we've ever done. Doesn't matter how old or how young you are. It just wasn't part of our world. The first virtual staff meeting we had, basically we just said, we got to figure out how we connect with those kiddos from the pool, from those kids in the after school program and their parents and the group exercise people. I mean, that there was a basis for that already out there, so that wasn't quite as ahead of the curve, but everything from teaching, how do we connect with those few thousand people that used to come in and out and we saw every day. And so I would say the Facebook platform's been really helpful for that. Email, Instagram, and there's an Instagram TV aspect now that you can do videos and things like that. The videos and the Zoom, the YouTube channel, you can create like a YouTube channel where people can kind of get in and do videos. Those have been hugely successful, for us. And if you had told me a month ago that we would have success touching the lives of, a couple thousand people in 4 weeks, I would have told you were crazy. But it is possible. It definitely means getting out of your comfort zone too. I've been with the Y for 30 years. I never did a Zoom meeting until this, and I knew they existed. I just didn't do them because I didn't want to, because I wasn't a technological person. I was a people person. And I think one thing this has taught me has really gotten me out of my comfort zone as a leader into leading in a very different way. And even managing in a different way, because when you don't see everybody every day, and you've got people at home that are working with little children, screaming all over the place, and you're having to be thoughtful of that. So you're not calling somebody without texting them first and saying, hey, do you have a moment to talk? So it really does mean reinventing your business, even if it's a business that's been around for 150 years, like the YMCA, or a new restaurant. You know, it's reimagining what you do, and I think those are the businesses that are going to come out of this successful, and in some cases, more successful than they were before this started.
Yes. Kai, Kai, I wanted to ask you, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Kai's Instagram. Beautiful pictures, really gorgeous food shots, culinary photography. So you do a lot online. I would say that you're one of the more prominent business owners on the island who uses social media in that context. But I think you run in-person workshops and you do travel retreats, for instance, to Italy. Is that right?
I would be in Italy right now.
Really? Oh gosh. Oh, that's such a shame. So you cross that divide. You do both online already and you do a lot of in-person. So how have you shifted your aspirations, your goals for the upcoming months?
So, good question. So I feel like there's across the different businesses, we've shifted in many different ways. My personal brand, I've kind of put on hold for my in-person retreats, because I do a retreat in Italy and one in Mexico, and then I do different ones in person, Nantucket here. I've done a couple different workshops online, but with my daughter at home and with the two businesses to manage, I kind of just put a stop. I need a pause for a minute, but I will probably relaunch and like an online learning situation. But right now, just really focusing on keeping the two businesses moving forward. And to speak about the social media, you know, we were at Sugar Mama, so we're relaunching our brand of chocolate, and we were supposed to be relaunching like this month. But we can still operate. So we still produce chocolate since the beginning out of that 79 Beach Road location. Okay. But in order to, you know, comply with COVID, we only have one person producing chocolate. So basically all I can do is keep up with my Whole Foods orders right now and our online orders. So I'm not really even trying to sell anything. So how do I use this platform in a way that connects with our consumers? And I don't want, you know, we're not trying to have anybody buy anything. We're hoping that they actually don't for a minute, because we wouldn't be able to fulfill those orders on time. So what we did is we connected with other people on the island with like-minded missions. So we got yoga instructors. We have Ben Hughes playing music tonight, because, you know, underneath our mission of plant-based organic is this idea to like raise our vibration and feel better. So we're kind of switching the model, instead of like trying to sell chocolate, to how can we uplift our community, engage in our community, and connect with our community, and use our marketing dollars to support our community, and connect that way. And that's been really well received. And it's been great to connect with other business owners like we're doing now. It's like not trying to sell anything, just trying to really connect with each other, and support each other, because that's one of the best things I feel like we can do right now.
Exactly.
And yeah, to answer your question about the retreats, I've just put everything on pause for now, and might do like a virtual retreat. Kind of, we're going to try and figure that out. But I'm a highly personable person. So that's why I like in person. And when I tried to do the YouTube, it was really hard for me to teach not having an audience. So, you know, like Jill was saying, I'm learning, but it's taken a little while.
Mm-hmm. One thing I keep hearing is connection and engagement with clients and customers, and just keeping the communication channels open. And I've also heard of a couple of people mention collaboration, reaching out to other people that you might not have previously and bringing them into a partnership or a team to create something new, or to do something new, or to offer a new sort of program or service. Has
really
anybody?
the irony of this time is that we've been asked to distance, and it's brought many people together. You know, I think this sense of like, we can't be, I too was supposed to be having in-person retreats this month, my first ones, because I moved here 7-ish years ago, and it isolated me very much from my actual client base. And so I would do in-person one-on-one events, and I really wanted to come together with small groups, and then this was the year for that, and apparently this isn't the year for that. So I keep saying the word reimagine. I think our opportunity is to say this is a time of huge transformation. And so even though my business, my personal business, isn't super disrupted, like what might I do? How might I also transition? And I do think that's the energy of things. But the things that you're talking about, Kai, of staying in touch with people, I mean, this is a time to build goodwill with like your constituents, everybody, clients, customers, colleagues, everybody. And it again, you can act as a leader, and a lot of leadership is pulling people together, lifting people up, helping people who are upset. You know, there's some people who are, this is a traumatic and tragic and horrible time for a lot of people. And so I think that being in the energy of that, when personally, I feel like I'm okay. Like I'm in a good place physically here on the island. I think things are okay for us. There's a lot of resources we have, but that's not true of everybody. And so what I've been trying to do during this time is to find people that we can help and lift up. So that builds goodwill. That's kind of the you know, one aspect of it, but it's also about being sustainable. We make all of ourselves more sustainable. And so what is happening during this time that isn't nice is that businesses that weren't sustainable are not going to make it through here. They were perfectly sustainable for another life, but that's not the way things are going to be. So I think the opportunity is what makes us a business sustainable in this new reality. And how can we come together and help each other to co-create those businesses?
Mm-hmm.
I think collaboration is going to be key in contingency planning, thinking ahead, thinking scenarios for May, for July, for August, for October. What if this, what if that? And I think collaborating, reaching out to other businesses, to other consultants, to other colleagues, to brainstorm what those contingencies are. What does it look like? What will it look like? What do I do in this case if this doesn't happen, if the boats don't run, if the government's still shut down, if, you know, this and that. It's a hard thing for a small business owner to do on your own. And I think having the partnerships around us is really key for making those contingency plans strong.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen in our, you know, with the Y, because like I said, we have lots of different things that we do. We've developed cohorts. You know, there's been cohorts of people that work in fitness, and cohorts of people that work in the food industry, and cohorts that work with childcare and emergency childcare and camp. And so I've actually had the ability to really network with people I never usually communicated with, alongside some of my staff, you know. And we've been able to, as you say, you know, help other people. You know, we've kind of taking our strengths that we have and be able to share that with other people that maybe their bench strength isn't quite, you know, they don't have quite as much staff, or they don't have quite as much this or that, and all working together. I would say that is something that's very different than been happening in the last, you know, 10 years that I've lived here and worked at the Y. And I think that's a very good thing for the island, you know, to kind of get people out of their silos and understanding that there are other businesses that are in the same sort of situations and serving some of the same constituency, just in a different time of day.
And what I heard from Kai earlier, saying that, you know, you're in it for the goodwill and for the good vibes and lifting people up. I think, I mean, I work for a nonprofit, so we have a mission. The YMCA has a mission, but for typical small businesses that are for-profit, generally you have a product or a service, and now might be the time where that underlying mission really needs to come to the forefront, to where you're putting forth your product and your service for a reason and for the goodwill of it, not even so much as the profit behind it, but for the betterment of our community.
Mm-hmm. And I think it comes down to the what's going on right now. Like, we're globally coming together as a community of one, and this is this has very much to do with the climate and climate change. So how can we come together as one and serve the greater good in all of our unique businesses, because we all need each other to create change in order to, avoid more catastrophic events, and listening to the science. So I think it's great that, the more businesses and the more people that come together to support each other in this, and looking at that bigger mission, because we have all the resources that we need to create the change we need to see, but we can't do it alone.
We definitely can't do it alone. I think the collaboration.
I wanted to mention, since we're an international community and we're sharing by Zoom, we're still a micro community here on the island, and we have become silos in as much as we all look the same in masks. And so as the great work that Corona Stompers has started, we're actually reaching out through our mission in Martha's Vineyard Sea Salt, which is to build community around food. We're hoping to partner with Corona Stompers to build community through creating face plates that folks on the island can get through us, through Corona Stompers, so that you can wear that out into public when you've got your mask and nobody can recognize you, especially with my new haircut. Nobody knows who you are, because I want to see those smiles. Because when I see you in the market, when I see you running to the post office, whatever you're doing, you're very much a part of my community, and I want to be able to see you and really know that it's you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great idea. I think that's an example of adapting to, like, well, we've taken away this, but can we have this? So if we've taken away that you can't see my face, and can you really tell if someone's smiling behind there? Two, let's have a face. We've taken away, like, we cannot meet in person, so we can meet like this. So there's a lot of creative adaptations, I think, that we're seeing here. And personally, I've been doing Zoom calls for years, and for me, I'm very filled up by this call. I know for our real extroverts, this isn't enough for them. They need the people time in person and the touch. And for them, there's something like a Corona tailgate party where we're all far enough apart where we're safe. But I would say, when you think about your customers or clients, what's the love language that they have with you? Whether is that words of affirmation? Do they need physical touch? Do they need gifts? How and in what form do they need to hear from you right now? For my audience, in the many ways where I can share with them. So that's going to be on social media platforms. It's going to be in my Facebook group. It might be that I might text them or email them. So think of the ways that you can stay in touch with people right now. And then what do they want to hear? Do they want coupons? Do they want free gifts? Do they want access to something for free that you can give them? Do they want bonuses? For some people, I have a lot of clients. I'm going to share this just because I think it's important to know that there are people out there who are investing. I've had clients who are management consultants who have sold in during this time in the last 6 weeks, since it's been this bad, have sold in $400,000 consulting engagements. That's a year-long consulting engagement. They've sold those in. So companies are still buying things they need. Small individuals are still buying things that they need, or that they think, this is going to get me where I want to go. The e-learning platform Thinkific says that the consumption of their courses is up 68%. So people are like, I got some time on my hands. I'm going to improve myself by taking courses. So again, what does that translate to for your clients or customers? What are they doing? I mean, a lot of us are home cooking, Heidi, so I just don't know how you're not completely sold out. Same Kai. I'm like, we've got a bunch of cooking happening in our house and a bunch of entertaining, and we're doing this wonderful food sharing in our neighborhood. So what do people want and need from you?
For me,
Yeah.
Oh, so the Frankie's business kind of was an offshoot of my Not Your Sugar Mama's Cafe, and then we started the Flatbread truck, which a partner in New York lent me for last summer to test, and then we were supposed to bring it to New York. We changed. Talk about pivoting! Like the past 2 years have been all about pivoting. I'm always like turning around. So we actually decided early in January to launch consumer product goods. So similar to the chocolate bars that we sell in Whole Foods, we decided to do our cheeses. So I have an aged Roquefort cheese that you age for 12 weeks and almond feta, like the products that went on our flatbreads. So we've really been focusing in even more to push those products and get those out sooner, because the flatbread model has changed. All of our big events have pulled out from the fair. So luckily I can return the truck, and I don't have any real issues returning the truck and not bringing it for the summer. It's a loss because, we had grown clientele that did like that. And we had, great opportunities at the events, both on and off island, to have the truck. But now that, my space is going to become available, I'm going to turn that into a marketplace. So instead of, a month ago it was going to be a cafe. Today it's going to be a marketplace, which I'm going to sell. I'm going to have way less staff, because a cafe is a lot of staff, a lot of turnaround. Whereas now I'm going to, take a step back and just do marketplace items. So, for those eating organic, plant-based, it's a lot of food. Well, any food. There's a lot of food that you have to make from scratch, like the nut cheese and things like that. So we're just providing those staple foods, coconut bacon, gluten-free bread, staple foods that people can assemble at home. And then also offering options for potentially bigger events that we can do outside. So like cooking paella or things like that. But things that we can advertise, and if they schedule, then we can do it, but we're not investing too much on the front end and, taking that huge risk. So we've really just shifted that way to create more of a marketplace and to create more staple foods and test our CPG products. So it's going to be a marketplace in a kitchen with some catering if we can gather in groups, but there's a lot of unknowns, and it's been a constant switch. I mean, for day to day, even with Sugar Mamas, we still make chocolate in there every day, and navigating what, my staff feels comfortable with. And it's been a lot of pivoting, but that's kind of how we're shifting to really serve people at home and help people stay healthy with organic plant-based foods, and also really shifted to where we're going to source from. We already source a lot of local, but we're just going to even create less items to source more locally.
I was going to say, I would say right now the anxiety that most people are feeling is, we're kind of gotten a handle on, how we're going to handle what we do right now. But now that we've gotten some idea of when we can start to open, some of the cohorts that I've been working on, there's a lot of anxiety about how we open, what we open, what's the socially responsible way to open. Just because we can, does that mean we should? I guess more so in sort of some of the businesses like the Y that are kind of recreationally based, it's not necessarily considered essential, that people do this. So all of a sudden you have a large influx of population that come to the island this summer, as we hope there will be. Now you've created, in the Y, sort of this big gathering place. What's the proper thing to do in terms of how you open the Y? Do you open the Y? Is it that the socially responsible thing to do? I think there's a lot of businesses that I've been having conversations with, Kai, like you've kind of come up with sort of your next new normal. What is our new normal? Well, what's our summer gonna be like? And then how is that gonna lead into the new normal? I was on a call this morning with some other sort of like facilities like ours, and we're all struggling with that. Nobody wants to put the island at risk, yet we're all getting a lot of pressure to run summer camps and run fitness classes and let people be able to get back in the gym. And of course, you know, that's what we want too, because we're not bringing in any revenue at all right now. And so, but you know, money can't be what it's about. It's got to be about what's the socially responsible thing to do. There's been a lot of people that have been closed and out of business for a couple months now. And you don't want to take away the work that's been done with that work. So I feel like that's the big challenge right now in a lot of businesses. Hospitality, recreation, clubs. Anyway, I just throw that out there. I don't have an answer to the question. It's what our organization right now is really struggling with. We'll get some guidance from the CDC, but you know, they're not going to tell us what we can and can't do. We just have to make the socially responsible decision as to what to do.
Right.
If I could jump in and share with you all. So the governor has assembled a reopening task force to address by industries a series of reopening steps or policies or recommendations. Also, the OSHA has come up with guidelines. Now, they don't have the reopening guidelines that will come soon within a couple of weeks, but they do have some terrific suggestions that workplaces can employ. And I'll share that with all of you.
Please do. Is there a link you can put in the chat?
Let me see if I can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's see, we have one question.
Yeah.
Jill, can you hold classes outside with?
So that's actually one of the things we are considering is actually making our fitness studio that into like a TV studio, so we can continue keeping our classes going and doing and then moving some of the classes outside when the weather is permitting and in spaces that we can find. I think the biggest problem for us is that we do a lot of shared spaces. So we have like healthy agers using the same classroom that our kids use for camp. And for a while that seemed like a great idea, right? Not so much now. So space is a big problem for us. We may have to have people signing up at different times to come in and use the fitness center so we can manage how many people are in there at once. And we are looking at, you know, plexiglass to help in between machines and things like that. I mean, it's going to be definitely very different. But I've got a great team of people. A lot of you know a lot of the Y staff that have been there pretty much the whole time we've been open. And I've got some of the best minds, a lot smarter than me, thinking about all of these things. And so for that, I'm really grateful.
Jill, a little tongue in cheek here, but if you act quickly enough, you can do a puddle stomping class this spring. It's aerobic and fun.
Yeah, no, it's, you know, YMCA people are generally pretty creative people. So we're putting everybody to the test. So, and we're open to suggestions. I think we are going to be putting a survey out. That's another thing I think that businesses can do. I can't remember who mentioned it, but you have your constituents, they're still there. They're going to love you, even if you have to take the summer off. Yeah. What we're going to do is we're going to survey our members and just ask them, you know, like, if we were open, would you come? You know, because it's sort of like, do you want to go to all the trouble to do it and then find out nobody's going to come anyway, you know? Right. So we're going to try and get a sense of what our constituency would feel comfortable doing. And, you know, hey, would you come out and work out on a treadmill if you had to wear a mask? You know, I'm not sure. People may not want to do that. So we'll get some more information, and that survey I think is going to go out next week.
Good.
Awesome. Yeah, I highly recommend surveys. We've sent out a few just to gather what kind of foods people want. And a month ago we did it when we thought we could launch Frankie's Flatbreads, and we sent another one. So just gauge it, and also asking people, like, you know, what are their biggest concerns when it comes to whatever type of business, like, you know, with Jill, with exercising with face masks with our customers. We're asking them, what are your concerns about food safety? And, on our team, we're trying to figure out ways to make people feel more comfortable, like putting like a video camera in our production so everyone can see how we make all the food, like complete even more transparency, things like that.
Those are great ideas. I think things that have emerged from this time period are authenticity, like the Zoom calls. We're in people's homes. A lot of this kind of like pretend and artifice has gone away, which is probably a good thing and a sustainable thing, right? Like this is what I think people want. I love the idea of increased transparency. I think a lot of the emails that we've gotten, and by Nancy mentioned not being invisible. Email is a great way to keep in touch, and it is a way to be visible, even if you think people don't want to hear from you. It's I don't know if everybody noticed this flurry of emails right in the beginning, but remember, things that happen in a flurry, a little while after that, they all die off. So this is a good time to continue to be in touch. Yes, finding out what they want, but I love the idea of like sharing. Here's what we're doing. People are very curious about what other people are doing right now. It's giving them inspiration, ideas, hope, but also, oh wow, they're having a hard time too. That's also a good thing for everybody to share. And I think in this way, a lot of the businesses sharing on Islanders Talk has been, I think, very unifying, because we're seeing, wow, things are really bad for some people, and people are being creative about how to take care of their employees, and here are ways that we can support local businesses. So I think those are great ways for us to continue to share. I would personally love to see, and I don't know if this exists and I just don't know about it, but a more business oriented online group, such as what you're gathering, Holly, and Nancy, if there's a chamber group. But could we have this discussion online? Because I would love to see everybody sharing these kinds of things, resources that we're getting. I'm in an online group this week. So I'm a one-person business. I have 12 people who are all 1099 and who work with me. And I saw a business just like mine got EIDL. So not PPP, but EIDL. And I was like, well, I didn't know that was possible for my kind of business. So this information sharing is, it again, lifts all boats.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, I know that we could keep talking, because we've got assessing one's personal needs through business. We've got keeping a healthy balance sheet. We've got more on contingency planning. There's so much to discuss. But YMCA-MV is the sponsor of this, as well as the Mass Cultural Council and the Martha's Vineyard Cultural Council. And we're going to schedule another one in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We would love to have you back. We're going to invite other panelists as well from different sectors of the vineyard economy, to keep these ideas flowing. And I love your word, unified. We are definitely unified in this. We're all working together. I love that we can bounce our ideas off each other and call on each other if we need to. And I think that is open to everyone on our call today, that we're all available for each other, which is great. So thank you all for joining us today. And we'll see you next time.
Fabulous. Thanks for organizing, Holly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good to see all of you here.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Ciao, ciao.